Okay, so today's lesson is actually about what we're going to do next. We've already started our works cited page, and we have also been, we've got our first source read, and we took our first set of notes on it. Now we're going to find our second source. Now, just as a quick recap, we've been primarily using the Turn-In folder and this purple research paper resources folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on research paper resources for today. Now, when you get into this, you'll actually see that there is a getting started on your digital note cards for your second source page here. Let's go ahead and look at it. Now, as a shortcut, I've included the links to the Gale database into this. But what you're going to need to have today also is this new Google document. In fact, I'm going to open it right now. It's going to force you to make a copy, and that's fine. And notice it looks just like source number 1, except for the only difference is it says source number 2. So now what we're going to do differently here is we are going to be finding an academic journal source, an academic scholarly source. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to go back to the Gale database, which we're going to also need open. And once we get there, nowadays too, they're giving this redirect notice. You just hit continue right there. And you'll click on Gale and Context Global Issues. And, for me, the one I'm modeling is greenhouse gases. So when I go to the greenhouse gases overview, instead of reading the whole article, if I scroll down a little bit, there is a category of sources known as academic journals. And what they're saying in this database is they have 33 articles from academic journals. So I'm kind of interested to see what kind of sources they have and how they'll be used. So I'm going to go ahead and click on academic journals, which is what I'm going to want you to do. And what we're going to do is they have the list of them right here. And what you have to do, and this is what makes the academic journal research part of this difficult, is that some of these are really specific, or they're filled with like technical language and jargon and things like that, and so can be very difficult, or they can be very, like, they don't apply to what you're actually researching, because you might be doing a general overview of things, and they focus on a very, very specific issue. So I'm going to go ahead and click on one of these and see if it kind of matches the things I'd be interested in. So one of the things is called the greenhouse effect. But notice it says citation only, so I can't use that. By the way, with these that say citation only, you can't use those. However, if I scroll down a little bit and I go, can beavers save us? That might be an interesting thing. Another one says betting on the future, the science of climate change. I'm actually going to pick the science of climate change. That seems to be the most relevant source. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this article. And the first thing that you have to do is you have to preview it. You have to read the summary, and they always give you a summary. So they're like Michael Oppenheimer, blah, blah, began, right? And if you scroll down and you evaluate it, this is actually quite a long resource. So this is something that's going to take a few days to read, which I'm fine with. And as somebody who's looking at this and previewing this and looking at what's there, I could actually use this as my source. So once you've decided that you're going to use this as your academic journal source, all you have to do is the same thing you did before. You scroll down to the bottom of the page, and right here, they have the actual citation ready for you. So if I go ahead and copy from the beginning of Oppenheimer all the way to 2022, I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to go to source number 2, and I'm going to replace the text there, and I'm going to paste. And lo and behold, you can see that our citation is here. So this is a source, too, that I also wanted to show is being a little bit different than the previous source. The previous source was like a reference piece. This is not. This is actually written by authors, and in particular, it's written by 2 authors. So the rule with 2 authors is you do have to show both authors in your citation. So let me go back to the article just for the sake of illustration. And, this article, because I previewed it ahead of time, is about how children will be affected by global warming. So one of the facts is that I noticed in this was children will be greatly affected by global warming because their water supplies and the ability to grow food in their societies are going to be in danger. And what I have to put in parentheses for this, though, because it's got two authors, is I have to put Oppenheimer and Attila Hughes, because those are the two last names of the authors. So I'm going to go ahead and Oppenheimer, and you can use the ampersand if you want the and sign, or you can just type and, it doesn't matter. And then you obviously, here's the second author's last name. And yes, you keep them in order. Now, one of the other things that I think is important to know is, let's say your article only has one author. Well, then in that case, you only have to list the one author's name, right? And that's in the case if there was one author. Now, let me tell you what to do if there are three or more authors. If you have three or more authors, you list the first listed author. So in this case, it would be Oppenheimer. And then you type E.T. and then space and then A.L. period and then close parenthesis. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of highlight this et al. What that actually means is and everyone else. So instead of having huge long lists of people's authors' last names in this, what it's going to have instead is the Latin that says and everybody else. So that's with regard to three or more authors. Now, in the case of the article that I've chosen to illustrate, this has two authors, and therefore you only list the author's last names, those two last names. So once again, too, this is an example where I have paraphrased what was written in the article, and then I've given credit where credit is due by putting the two authors into the citation. And that is how you will search and find your second source. You're going to go into the Gale database. You are going to go to the academic journals section, and you're going to preview some articles and determine which of the ones you wanted to do. Once you have picked an article like I did here, you're going to do the same process that you did before by copying and pasting the citation at the top of your document, like the way that I shared with you. And then, of course, you'll be paraphrasing and using indirect and direct quotes and leading into it with your own words, the same technique we did on the previous one. Just keep in mind, it's all about making sure that you give credit where credit is due by listing the author or the author's last names in the parenthesis. Thank you.